each race. 3 tire sets total. 2 sets are left on pit road for each of those races. A 50% fuel limit, so expect about a 17-lap fuel run and 2 pit stops per race. So short races, but also short fuel runs. The keys tonight. These trucks, manage the temperatures in these trucks. There'll be huge drafts tonight of a large field of trucks, and pushing will definitely be happening quite often. So you got to manage the water temps. You can easily blow these M4 NT1 engines up if you're not careful. Also, avoid the big ones. Again, large field of trucks here tonight. So the wrecks will be, hopefully not often, but if they do happen, they'll probably be big. So you need to be there at the end, and that's the third key. Be there in the end, at the end of both of these races. Luckily, if you wreck out of race 1, you got another chance in race 2, but you don't want to have to rely on that if you don't have to. So being in the right place at the right time at this narrow Daytona Speedway, it's going to be exciting, 2 to 3 wide. So whoever survives tonight, they'll come away with a good points day.
Certainly will be an exciting race to watch. Thank you, as always, Kenny, for your keys to victory. I'd also like to thank the premier sponsor for tonight's race, Route 66 Paint and Wallpaper. They specialize in custom house painting and wallpaper in Klingman, Arizona. They're the only contractor in all of Mojave County that removes and installs wallpaper. You can find them on Facebook by searching Route 66 Paint and Paper. And guys, it looks like we've still got some qualifying going on down on the racetrack. So far, Robert Barney has the fastest lap of the 52.217. JR, usually we see guys start up high and then use the gravity of the track to help them on either their first or their second lap. You reckon anybody might do better on their second lap?
Yeah, it's very possible to do better on that second lap, just because you can get that momentum wound up just a little bit higher. But I believe these guys, they're going off of 2-lap averages here in order to get their time for tonight. So that's very difficult to use that high line to really gain the time. You're going to have to run the bottom on both laps here.
I feel like, we might see some drivers. It looked like a couple guys were up high on the first lap, but you're right, though, the 2-lap average. So you could probably start high on your first lap, but then you have to go all the way down to the bottom and just kind of rim ride down along that double yellow line. And Kenny, you can speak to just how difficult it is to do that for 2 laps around here.
Yeah, I see that Tyler Dohar has gone up to the top of the board, and both of his laps were down on the bottom. So obviously you do get a warm-up lap, which is almost a full lap in itself, trying to get up to speed. You can use that to go around the top side, and then you run your laps on the bottom. But yeah, the key thing around here is to obviously keep the throttle pinned, but to minimize the steering input, and that will give you the fastest time around this place.
iRacing timing and scoring from qualifying is now complete. Tyler Dohar lines up on the pole with Robert Barney to his outside. Tyler Graff is going to roll off in third, followed by Mr. Consistency Mike Rasmus in fourth. Colton Salick and Woody Mahan complete row number 3, followed by Scott Eckrich and Jeff Ward, the 2 past PGRL champions there, starting in 7th and 8th. Nick Cody's going to line up at 9th with Sawyer Nelson, rounding out the top 5. Adam Beef Jersky's going to roll off in 11th, followed by Travis McQuistion in 12th. Shane Calhoun's going to line up in 13th, followed by Christopher Matthews in 14th, with Drew Wright lining up in 15th, and Safe Ferries in 16th. Michael Krobach is going to roll off in the 17th position, followed by Thomas George in 18th. Brian Yazik and Matt Semrick are going to line up in 19th and 20th, respectively, followed by Matthew Boniface in 21st, Creighton Carter in 22nd, Justin Richter in 23rd, and Zach Olson in 24th, JR.
Yeah, coming off in 25th spot tonight will be Mike Wright. 26th place is Mark Cohn. Rolling off in 27th will be Rooster Rodden in that 01 truck. 28th place will be Jacob Willis. Rolling off in 29th is Jonathan Cadell. Alongside him in 30th will be Michael Astudo. Rolling off in 31st place tonight we have Ricky Harden in that 3 truck. Alongside him in 32nd we have Nathan Guilford. 33rd place tonight is Sean Cross. 34th place, Mac Bailey. Rolling off in 35th will be Paul Pepper. 36th place will be Chris Lanini. Next row will be 37th place, Brian Greenlee. Alongside him in 38th will be Tyler Dolger. Ryan Zimma, he'll roll off in 39th. Isaiah Dupre, he starts off in 40th place tonight. 41st will be Kyle Hollowell. 42nd is Calvin Filarski. Rolling off in 43rd is Ryan Keese. 44th is Carson Abe. 45th place will be Jordan Harnish. 46th, Chris Stouffer. Next row, 47th place will be Mark Herzog. Alongside him in 48th will be Gael Brooks. 49th place tonight will be Mike Rigney. 50th place, Brian Fletcher. Beside him, or actually on the next row by himself, will be Don Runkle Jr. in 51st place.
Thanks, JR. The entire field now rolling off of pit lane. Kenny, this is by far one of the largest fields we've seen in a good couple seasons here at the Pretty Good Racing League. And it seems like there's now a lot more opportunity for guys to kind of get into each other. I mean, there's 51 cars out there on track, especially around Daytona. A lot can happen very quick when you're going just about one football field per second.
Oh, for sure. This is the largest field I've seen in a stock car race ever, in my experience. So you're going to see drivers double stacking in pit boxes because there's only 43 pit boxes at Daytona. We have over 50 drivers, but yeah, the draft is going to be huge, and you're going to have a lot of different agendas out there. You always have drivers at Daytona, some that want to stay up in the front, some that want to go to the back. You're going to probably see multiple packs of trucks here trying to draft together, get something going. It's going to be really interesting, and if you're down in the back, beyond 40th place, you got to really manage your time of, when do I actually decide to go up towards the front, because it might take a while to get through 40 to 45 to 50 vehicles to get to the front.
Certainly will. iRacing pace car leads the field through turns 3 and 4. Of course, Tyler Dohar in the 78 car on the bottom, or truck, excuse me. It's going to be a long time to try and kill that car versus truck thing, especially when half the time we are racing in the cars. Of course, the Gen 4 Cup car, the other vehicle with which this series will choose to do battle with for the entire season-long championship. He's got Robert Barney to his outside. iRacing pace car makes the hard left turn down onto pit road. Waiting now for the green flag. It waves through the air. We're now underway in the Route 66 Paint and Wallpaper Twin 100s here at Daytona International Speedway. Tyler getting himself a quick start there off the start-finish line. He's going to lead the field into turns 1 and 2, but JR, I wouldn't be too surprised. That top line it's pretty well situated right now. You've got 3 trucks kind of all right next to each other, and Woody Mahan's been a really good pusher at these restrictor plate tracks.
Yeah, definitely, Austin. There are speed and numbers at places like this, and it's all about the line that's going to be the most organized, because the one that is the most organized will ultimately have the most speed. The one thing that we normally see at Daytona on that inside line is they can usually get good for the first few laps. Once that inside line starts to bottle up a little bit, drivers get close to each other, have to start backing off that throttle. That outside line can usually stay more organized and make those passes.
Driver to lead the first lap here in season number 6, Tyler Dohar, by about 1/100th of a second. He takes that over Robert Barney. Tyler Graff doing very well, especially that 98 car. And of course, Mike Rasmus still up there in the top 4. He's that second truck there in the top lane. He's got Woody Mahan just behind him. 4th place there on the bottom row. That's Scott Eckridge. He's one of our 2-time champions here in the Pretty Good Racing League. The other one, Jeff Ward, and the only driver that isn't named Scott Eckridge or Jeff Ward to win a championship, Thomas George. He currently sits back in 18th position.
Yeah, he does at the moment. Those drivers, though, are usually ones, at least Scott Eckridge is one that'll say that he does not typically like the plate tracks. I know he's had success there, but he typically does not like these bigger tracks. Somebody like Michael Krobach, that's going to be in that 72 vehicle that we watch quite a bit of, he's going to be one to kind of keep an eye on. He seems to know how to get it done on these big tracks.
Certainly does. One driver, though, I feel like is going to have a lot of pace, especially in drafting, Adam Jersky. He started back in the 11th position. He's still there about 2.5 laps later. I wouldn't be too surprised to see him up further towards the front. But for right now, it's the 2 drivers there, Tyler Graff and Mike Rasmus. They continue to give some really excellent pushes to the drivers in front of them. For the 98 of Tyler Graff on the bottom, it's Tyler Dohar in the 78. And for the number 68 of Mike Rasmus there up on the top side, he's got the 16 truck of Robert Barney out in front of him, and these two have been pretty much dead even these last couple laps.
Yeah, they absolutely have. The one difference that I'm seeing on that outside line, and the inside line looks like it's starting to figure it out a little bit better. The outside line has those top two trucks really working together, but Woody Mahan in the third truck is staying right close to the second truck. So that's allowing them to carry more speed, keep that momentum going. The inside line broke up just a little bit, and that allowed that outside line to kind of overtake them slightly. But I see that inside line starting to get gathered back up.
Yeah, Scott Eckridge just got a really good push there to the rear end of Colton Salick in the number 99 car. Due number there for Colton. But instead of kind of transferring that energy up to the 98 car truck in front of him, of Tyler Graff, he kind of just decided to back off the throttle and leave a little bit of space up to that truck in front of him. So, as always, we're kind of seeing a little bit of, I'm going to say, not showing all your cards, kind of backing off a little bit for right now, just to try and make sure, Kenny, these drivers are there at the end of the race. And, of course, no faster pairs.
Yeah, these drivers are right now just kind of feeling out the draft, and it was a good point that JR brought up a little bit ago with how important that third truck in line is. You know, the first two trucks are going to be the ones that are going to really be pushing each other physically, at least at some point tonight. But that third truck, if it can stay close to those leading trucks, can do what's called aero pushing or air pushing. If it can stay close to those two lead trucks, that's going to generate the most momentum, at least here in the sim, and progress that line forward. And really, you know, with how narrow Daytona is, the only real progress we're seeing throughout the pack is drivers having to switch lanes, just kind of like you would on the freeway, trying to weave through some traffic, because the lines are so even and so narrow in here at Daytona. Everybody's pretty tentative on starting up a third line. It's possible, but it's going to be sketchy. I do expect to see it at some point. But really, the progress through the field is pretty slow right now.
It's just really hard to pass right here, I would assume, JR, with the fact that these drivers are too wide pretty much all the way up and down the pack, and nobody's really been trying out that middle lane. I think it's just a little bit too early. Big risk there for these drivers to start making it three wide for right now. And, of course, as Darrell Waltrip always called it, the sucker hole, that middle groove.
Yeah, it definitely is if you have absolutely no help. In these trucks, you can make that middle groove work, but you're going to have the same amount of trucks in that middle groove, and nobody wants to get that risky at this point of the race. Like Kenny mentioned earlier during pre-race, this track is very narrow, so you do not want to get into a three-wide situation lap after lap. It's the slightest movement that can cause a big accident in that situation.
And JR, about 2 laps ago, you kind of made the question, at least posed it to us, where'd the top lane go? They were about 2 or 3 trucks back there in reference to the bottom row, but we've got the number 16 truck right up there. Robert Barney, he's been getting some really good pushes there from the 68 of Mike Rasmus, and Woody Mahan's been doing himself a great job as well. They drew even down the backstretch, and they're kind of back in fighting contention.
Yeah, the outside recovered quickly. I mean, we saw a lot of drivers that started to bail during that 1 to 2 lap period there, and I think a lot of drivers are just trying to hook up with their buddies. They're trying to get down into the lane that their other friends are at, because ultimately you've got to have drafting partners in this race if you want to win. That time will be around lap 40. That's when you're going to go for the checkered flag, and you need to have your partners with you. But right now, everybody's being very conservative, very clean, and they're just trying to get themselves into that right position, and preferably you want to do that before this first round of pit stops.
Two lead trucks continue to swap positions for the lead. If it isn't Tyler Dohar on the bottom, it's Robert Barney on the top. Sometimes the momentum shifts from the top to the bottom, and then from the bottom to the top. But Kenny, JR talks about, drafting with some of your friends, but if you've got a teammate, we've had to do this in different leagues you and I have raced in. Let's say you qualify up front and I'm near the back. How in the world do you find your friends in a situation like this?
Well, that's a good question. Ooh, I saw some contact through the pack there. Zach Olson dropping to the back on the outside. He got door slammed in turn 1. But yeah, I mean, that's a good question. With a field this huge, it can be very difficult to coordinate. I mean, you at some point you'll have one teammate either has to drop back, or you expect the other teammate to try to push forward so that they can find each other at some point. Now, another thing that can help out is green flag pit stops, which we are already halfway through this first fuel run. So what you can coordinate with your friends is pitting on the same lap. Now, you might end up with some trucks in between you when you make that pit stop, but it'll at least reduce the amount of of drivers in between you two, and that can help you get near each other for the second stint. But yeah, 50-plus truck field, it can be difficult, at least within the first 10 laps, to get with your friends. You might have to wait and try later.
Yeah, and talk about getting with your friends here. Lots of trucks, and to be quite frank, you do need to do this on these super speedways. You need to come down pit road with a group of cars, and that involves communicating with the other drivers that are around you, as well as with your teams, kind of your close, trusted friends, when you're going to make it down onto pit road. And depending on the field spread, you might lose a lot of time having to wait for your friends or teammates coming off pit road for someone to draft with. Tyler Dohar continues to lead up here at the front of the pack. Robert Barney still that lead car up in the top lane. But for right now, JR, I'm really liking the kind of pushes that Tyler Graff has been given to Tyler Dohar.
Yeah, absolutely. They're doing exactly what they need to do. You want to be that lead truck, and you would like to be on that inside line as long as they can stay organized. And right now, the leader, the 78 of Tyler, he has that good position, and he has a good pusher behind him with Tyler Graff. So these drivers are working together very, very well, and the best thing that they have going for them right now is they have a good third truck in that line. They have Scott Eckridge that is now right up behind Tyler Graff there in second.
Another kind of
Go ahead, Kenny.
another factor into these green flag pit stops that we might get to see is there's going to be varying gas mileages throughout the field. You know, drivers like the pole sitter Tyler Dohar, Robert Barney, those drivers are going to be getting worse gas mileage than everyone else in this field. The further back you are in the pack, as long as you're still in the draft, you're going to be able to go potentially a lap, maybe even 2 laps further than the leaders. So that's another bit of communication that needs to be done. If you want to pit with those leaders, you're going to have to pit early. So if you want to extend your pit window, you're going to have to pit with drivers that are, you know, most likely in the middle. There's seen a lot of communication right now on the driver chat. There are some drivers coming in right now, led by Jeff Ward.
Yeah, Jeff Ward, Zach Olson, both those drivers making the dive down onto pit road. See if we can get a beat on those drivers. And yeah, you can see them going down into the pits right now. Looks like a good group of guys here. And Kenny, there's really a fine line between too many drivers and just the right amount.
For sure, yeah. You want to have enough drivers so you can make a little bit of a draft, but you don't want so many drivers to where you start forming 2 lines. And really, we've seen in iRacing that a long single file line is actually a lot of times slower than a single file line of about 5 to 6 cars. That seems to be about the optimal amount of vehicles. And you see these drivers have to come out onto the apron. They have to ride the apron all the way around turn 2 until they reach the blue commitment line. Then they can come back up on the track and they'll get together. But you see Jeff Ward actually got out quite a bit before the rest of these drivers. Will have to catch up to him and draft with him there. And a big group, or a small group, coming back around to get by them. But they should stay on the lead lap for now. But these guys basically race this race backwards. They're going to pit as early as possible in their fuel window, then probably pit around lap 24 and then go to the end from here, or from there.
Yeah, 2 more drivers now coming back onto pit road. And at the front of the field here, interestingly enough, Robert Barney got enough of a lead. He was able to get down in front of Tyler Dohar. And now the 68 truck of Mike Rasmus is leading that outside lane. Tyler Graff mentioned he should be pitting this time by. Indeed he does. He's going to hop down to the bottom. Whoa, look at the 5 truck spinning behind him. That's Sawyer Nelson going for a bit of a wild ride. Barely gets cleared by the truck behind him.
Yeah, he did a nice job of not making that situation worse, gets his truck back going, but definitely going to lose a ton of time, and more importantly, probably going to lose that draft once he comes back out.
Yeah, certainly. There's 2 other drivers that went onto pit road with him. This is going to be a replay here. See the 5 truck. It's going to go for a bit of a spin right there, and I have to imagine, Kenny, that's wheel hopping or maybe locking up the brakes.
Yeah, to me, that's a look of too much rear brake. He probably jammed on the brakes as hard as he could, and you put a lot of rear brake and you can stop quickly, but if you put too much pressure on the pedal, that's what'll happen, is you'll spin out. And that's what happened there. And a lot of times those spins are not going to bring the caution out here at Daytona. Oh, so you have another spin, a lot of calamity here in pit lane and collisions.
Yeah, that time by you saw the 16 truck there of Tyler Dohar, Robert Barney come down pit road. There's a lot of drivers down there right now looking here at the number 52 truck.
There's a look at it there, and multiple drivers, one going in the grass, a few others were slamming into each other on pit lane. You can actually ghost through drivers to an extent on pit lane, but not all the time. So if you're in the middle of pit lane, you can get slammed into just like that. There's some contact between multiple trucks.
Yeah, and it looked like it's just somebody trying to get to their pit box and didn't realize how close the other drivers were.
And we got a group of leaders actually coming in this time by here.
Yeah, Ackridge, Mahan, Rasmus, McQuistion.
That actually looked really clean by all those drivers coming in. Oh, now never mind. We got Ricky Harden went around, and Mike Wright went around, and I think we got a driver or two that's missed their pit box. Remember, we're going to have some double stacking of pit boxes tonight with how many drivers are in this race, and it's causing a little bit of confusion.
Yeah, and JR, it's tricky enough to have to pull into your pit box where there's a driver in front of you going into theirs. How tricky is it going to be for these drivers when they might have somebody else pitting with them in their exact same pit box?
Oh, extremely tricky because it's very hard to judge where your pit sign is. It's very important to not only hit that pit sign exactly when you come to a stop, but to also get yourself centered up in your box nicely. And it's hard to tell exactly where that is when there is a ghosted truck sitting right in front of you until you're almost exactly in place. And by that time, it's too late. So very difficult what some of these drivers are having to do tonight.
Saw the Ford truck there just barely stop a little bit short in his box. Looking there at the number 6 machine of Thomas George, of course, the season number 3 winner.
So, Austin, these are the last 6 drivers, 5 or 6 drivers to come in and make their pit stops. So that will complete the cycle. And I think this is going to really spread out the entire field. And we'll find out who did the best job of getting down pit road, getting a quick service, and then getting together with some partners to draft with. And I think it might end up being Mike Rasmus there. You're looking at him on screen.
And Kenny, for right now, for all these drivers, the first pit stop here, it's easy. You just pack that thing full of fuel, get back out on the racetrack. For the next one, you kind of have to do some internal math in your head to say, all right, I don't want to lose time out on the racetrack by spending extra time down pit road. Based on how many laps I can go more on my fuel tank and how many laps I'll have left, now you have to adjust it. But JR, it looks like nowadays the iRacing system will actually help fill it for you.
Yeah, it actually gives less thinking for the driver. If you do not have somebody that is spotting for you, crew chiefing for you outside of the iRacing service, then it is definitely a lot easier because you can just click on that box and say how many laps of fuel that you want to add past making it in the race. So you can say exactly right at the race distance, or you can go a lap or 2 more just to be safe. So it takes a lot of the thinking out of the driver's hands, and all he has to do is worry about where he is on that racetrack and making those pit stops.
Mike Rasmus currently your leader. He's got the number 99 truck of Colton Salick to his outside. Behind him, he's got the 70 machine. That's Scott Eckridge giving him a big, healthy push. And watch this run from the outside. Michael Krobach giving a big old bump to the 99 truck of Colton Salick.
Yeah, definitely that outside line is looking good right now. Salick definitely being pushed to the front there with Krobach, right behind him. And they've got a nice train set up. So right now that outside line has a few more vehicles in it than that bottom lane. But you can see how coming off of turn 2 down that back straightaway, when that inside line is connected, it really surges to the front.
See Brian Yazik there, 3rd position on the top line. Bit of a new look for him, new sponsor as well. We're so used to seeing Brian Yazik be sponsored, rather racing under the brand name of his family's sandwich shop, of course, in Indian River, Michigan, on the northern side of the state. Right now he's kind of driving a UPS flavored truck, but he's got LPM in there, of course, his team, Loud Pedal Motorsports, on the hood.
It's definitely a cool look. Something we're going to have to get used to. We're going to have to get used to a lot of different paint schemes this season, where we have the trucks and the Gen 4 Cup car. Everybody is going all out to try to put something beautiful out on this track. And we mentioned it before, PGRL has a lot of talented painters in it, not just drivers, but painters, and they like to showcase what they can do each and every week, both in the driving side of things and on the painting side. And we can see a lot of bump drafting here, Austin, starting to take place. That's starting to ramp up a little bit more.
Yeah, guys are getting more and more aggressive. Of course, officially past the halfway point in this race, so time to ramp up the aggression. Not quite to what we might see in the last 5 or 10 or so laps, but definitely see guys getting more and more aggressive with their pushes, with their blocks, with their lane changes as the race continues to go on.
Yeah, and you know, it may seem like we've just ended that pit cycle, but we are less than 5 laps away from probably seeing some drivers come down for their second and final pit stop. And remember how I said that the field would be spread out after pit stop number 1? It doesn't look like it on screen, but that draft is half the size of the lead draft before the pit cycle. It's down to about 20 trucks at this point. I expect it to get even more spread out after the second pit cycle. I expect someone to come down pit road maybe somewhere around lap 24, 25, but we're going to see little groups of vehicles come down lap after lap after that. Some drivers will be able to go almost to the end, but not quite.
Yeah, Krobach with a really good push there to the number 99 truck ahead of him. Colton Salick, he led that last lap. The first truck now clear. He's going to go all the way down to the bottom and leave the top side to Krobach. We'll see if Brian Yazek can give Michael a big push here, and indeed he will.
Yeah, you know, sometimes as that second truck in line, it is not a bad thing when the leader bails on you once he clears everybody, because that makes you the first car in that lane. And if you have a buddy behind you helping push, you know that you're going to go to the front, and that's what we just saw Krobach do with Brian Yazek right behind him.
Pretty big shuffling of the cars that were the major players in the race earlier. Of course, you've still got Scott Eckridge up there. He's now third in the bottom line. And look at this monster push there from Yazek, the rear end of Krobach. Almost cleared Krobach by 1 truck over the rest of the field. Not quite going to do that. He doesn't have the opportunity to go to the bottom side. But Brian Yazek again showing how powerful a plate track racer he is.
Yeah, for sure. And then we've got Brian Greenlee right behind him. He's known to have some good runs on the plate tracks as well. And tonight he's showing that he can indeed get it done here, running in third right behind that outside group.
So guys, one thing that might be a telling factor here in this next pit cycle is these leaders are slowly catching up to a group of about 7 or 8 trucks up ahead of them. And if they decide they want to make their pit stop at the same time as some of those lappers, it could get really ugly really fast.
Yeah, it's really difficult at that point to go ahead and decide once you all get back out on the racetrack who pushes who or what positions matter, because some trucks are racing on one lap and some are racing on another. That time by Brian Yazek gave a huge push to Michael Krobach. He hopped down to the bottom, and all of a sudden kind of the wind fell out from behind the sails of the Yazek machine. He's now dropped to about 6th or 7th overall. He's the first car in the high line, getting a big push here by Brian Greenlee. That's the number 38 truck on the high side.
Yeah, and to Kenny's point, they're catching this lap traffic here. It makes me wonder who's going to call an audible and try to pit early before they catch that pack of cars, just to make sure that they don't get mixed up in that. But this time by, it doesn't look like anybody's diving off.
Yeah, I haven't heard any radio communication yet. There's a little bit of chatter going on, but nobody's really committed to pit lane quite yet. But they are getting really close, and I'm seeing a lot more trucks diving down to the bottom. And going to the bottom here at Daytona is a telling sign of pit stops coming soon.
Yeah, of course, in real life, the telltale sign of a driver pitting is either a hand out the window down the backstretch. You, of course, in a normal track, even in iRacing, you pull down to the bottom of the track, but that's when everybody, JR, is racing up against the wall. There is none of that waving your hand in the back window to the truck behind it to let them know that you're going to come down pit road. You pretty much just have to put it in the chat, hope everybody sees it, and then hope that when it's time to pit, you make the hard left turn, just like Michael Krobach did. Look out for Scott Eckridge behind him. That's going to get close. I don't know how in the world Scott Eckridge missed the inside wall there.
He showed a lot of car control right there, under braking not to get that truck upset and clip that wall. And they're doing a nice job right now, this group is, of not hitting one another, making it into their box.
Everybody so far, so good. Lots of clean pitting here. And JR, talk about sharing stalls. Jeff Ward and Gael Brooks, the 9 and the 17, sharing a pit box. Both those drivers, though, excellently stopped in their boxes without going over.
Oh, Woody Mahan is losing it off of pit road. He's going to slide down to the inside of the track. That is going to ruin his race, but it looks like a caution is out.
Wow,
Shouldn't be for what Woody Mahan did, Kenny.
Yeah, I was about to say, I am unsure that that would bring out a caution. He's trying to run the 24 Hours of Daytona early. Spins down turn 1 of the road course. He doesn't hit anything. But this is going to mix a lot of stuff up because those drivers just pitted, and I believe they'll stay on the lead lap and everything, and they'll actually probably cycle back to the front. But this is going to really jumble everything up.
Yeah, definitely odd to see a caution come out. We're assuming for that, but I guess, guys, we don't normally see vehicles down in that area on the oval. So yeah, kind of odd for me to see that caution come out, but definitely going to save Woody Mahan there.
You know, guys,
Yeah.
I did see 2 drivers hit each other, Kelvin Filarski and one other. They hit each other in pit lane and then went off into the grass. A lot of times that doesn't cause a caution either, but that is something that happened at about the same time as the Mahan problem there, so it could have been either of those issues.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is Woody Mahan went down onto the Daytona road course section and then kind of drove the wrong way on that part of the track. Maybe there's some weird sort of glitch within iRacing, but it's really hard to tell. Hopefully, odds are Mike Rasmus and the rest of the field are going to take this opportunity for pretty much a free pit stop, per se. They are, of course, going to lose all the track position that they gained when that first set of trucks went down pit lane. And I don't know if that was inaudible or what, but that was perfect timing by Krobach and the rest of that front pack that caught the lap cars and immediately hung the left turn down pit road.
I will say this, though, drivers like Mike Rasmus and them that are coming down pit road right now, I know not all of them are going to do it, but if I was them, I would probably take 4 tires because you're not going to lose the amount of time that you would by pitting under green and taking 4 tires, because pretty much everybody that made their second pit stop, they also just took fuel only, so they have the original tires on from the start of this race. And I'm seeing quite a few drivers taking 4 tires there. Mike Rasmus was not one of them, but I think it's a good call. You'll lose a few spots, but you'll have fresh rubber to the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. These trucks do become a little bit of a handful, especially in the draft and when you're starting to push around. We got cooler temps here tonight. Daytona is usually a pretty stable track when it is cooler, but turns 3 and 4 is always slick here, and these trucks, they get hard to handle late in the run. So if you have those new tires, those fresh tires on, you will be able to maneuver better than anybody else, and you're going to see the need for that once we go green here, because we're only going to have about 9 laps left, I think, when we take the green flag. So drivers are going to be going hard, and they need to be able to move to the lines that they need to get to the front.
Yeah, 9 might be generous, excuse me. We'll see here in just a little bit. We're going to take a 90-second break for commercials and come back right after this.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to the Pretty Good Racing League. Austin Belke, J.R. Shepard, Kenny Kibbe, and Ryan Seneker with you here for the Route 66 Paint and Wallpaper. Of course, they specialize in custom house painting and wallpaper in Kingman, Arizona. They're the only contractor in all of Mojave County that removes and installs wallpaper. You can find them on Facebook by searching Route 66 Paint and Paper. Big shout out to our other season-long sponsors in the PGRL Winterno. They deliver the power and flexibility you need to keep your online world running smoothly, and MC Squared Editing Services, going the extra mile to take your document across the finish line. iRacing pace car makes the hard left turn down pit road. A big start there from the 72 of Michael Kropach and the 70 of Scott Eckridge. The two teammates with a strong start to this race, a restart I should say. Colton Salick just behind, going to take the opportunity with that open space behind the two in front and the rest of the pack to get on down to the bottom line. Looks like that bottom line's really got it going on. The top line continues to fall back. Brian Yazik, Travis McQuistion. Looks like Travis might come down to the bottom. Yazik can't quite do it yet, though.
Yeah, it's kind of a messy start. Everybody's kind of going everywhere. Nobody's really hooking up with each other than that bottom line. But now you're starting to see going into turn 3, trucks are finding each other, and that's what a lot of these guys were doing. They were searching for their teammates or their drafting partners, and they're starting to hook up now going through turn 4.
Yeah, Yazik and McQuistion with a huge push down the backstretch. They must have passed at least 5 cars. Back further in the pack, Ricky Harden in that number 3 truck, the Fingermobile, he likes to call it, with a big run in turns 3 and 4. You saw Jeff Ward slide up in front of him to kind of block and take that run away, so he puts Ricky behind him. He's only got 2 drivers in front of him on the top line.
Yeah, and here in a lap or two, you may start to see a third lane come in right up against that outside wall. There's a couple of trucks back in the back. Looks like the 84 of Woody Mahan and the 68 of Mike Rasmus.
Oh, they're wrecking, JR. Travis McQuistion, Brian Yazik, the 32 trucks involved.
Still wrecking.
Oh, here it is, guys. That's the big one we were talking about.
Oh, the track's trucks involved. Robert Barney. Yeah, they're still wrecking. 5 truck, and night for him coming to worse. Brian Yazik facing the wrong direction. You see the 89 there popping it into reverse. Don Runkle Jr., DRJ in the 00 car, picks his way through there. Brian Yazik with a spin turn.
I'll have to see where this one started from, but these wrecks are always horrible when they start up front, and that's where this one did start up right in front of some of the first few rows there.
Yeah, so this is after it already started to happen. You can see Travis McQuistion kind of pinned up against the wall, and he's trapping Brian Yazik, and then behind him, the field just starts to stack up. There's not a whole lot of places you can go at that point.
Yeah, see, I think some drivers will get out of this relatively unscathed, but others gonna have quite a bit of damage. And seeing a lot of net code too. A lot of drivers or vehicles are kind of like inside of each other, which that can kind of help you sometimes, kind of help you go through the wrecks unscathed, but other times can bounce you around and really wreck your race truck even more so.
Kenny, I remember last year in one of our league races at Daytona, you got it, honestly, not a hard hit, but for whatever reason, it must have spun you about 30 times in the air, about 50 feet high, and you crash, and all of a sudden, what shouldn't have been a hard lick basically ended your night.
Yeah, so what can happen sometimes is you might netcode inside of another truck, and then all of a sudden the sim will think that, oh yeah, you shouldn't be inside another truck, so it'll basically shoot you out, and it'll do oodles of damage and also send you flying as well. And that has happened to me a time or two. And you know, these super speedways always seem to have like weird netcodey problems with them every once in a while, and I'm seeing that again tonight. Hasn't really been a problem until just there, but yeah, it always seems to be a problem, and especially with a field this large, you have a lot of internet connections to manage.
Yeah, and of course, some drivers connecting to this racing session. You've got some drivers in California, some drivers in some of the Carolinas, pretty much all over the continental U.S. And when you have that many different internet connections all in one place, you're going to one place, you're bound to have a little bit of internet connectivity problems, some high ping for some drivers. We saw one guy, Kenny, you mentioned a 600 ping from one of our drivers, and that just leads to a lot of weird netcode issues.
Yeah, you have to trust the drivers around you, and if somebody's bouncing around, blinking in and out, it can be really a nightmare on both sides of that issue. I did notice that about 27th on back came down pit road, and I still see at least about 15 trucks that are still down pit road trying to get some damage repaired. So that was a very large wreck for quite a few drivers, but we're still going to have almost 30 drivers, about 25 drivers that will have unscathed trucks that are still in this. Let's take another look here at the replay.
And this is just, even if you're back in the pack, it's sometimes extremely difficult, JR, to get it slowed down. And you talk about having too much rear brake in these cars, and that's the initial start of the wreck. Maybe if we can go back a little bit earlier, we can see what caused it between the 55 and the 93. But right now, JR, my hunch is just a bit of a push gone wrong.
Yeah, more than likely it is. We may see it from a different vantage point here in just a second, but definitely if you push these vehicles off to one side, a little bit further to the left or to the right, off center, it can really upset the vehicles, especially if you do it right before you go into the corner. And here it looks like a little bit hard to tell, but we see Brian Yazik pushing Travis McQuistion up there. And we're going to have to watch this, but I believe he gets slightly to the outside of the 93 during that push. You can see his truck starting to drift to the right on that straightaway. And a little bit of that, I'm going to say, is not just Brian Yazik there, but the truck behind him looks like he is pushing him as well. And that pushed Yazik a little bit to the right of McQuistion and then ultimately turned McQuistion in front of everybody.
Yeah, there is a reason sometimes, JR. They say you can't push the pusher, and I think Jeff Ward just found out why. And as soon as the 93 and the 55 trucks got separated, the push from the 9 to the 55 just made the 55 kind of pass the 93, or at least get to his outside. As soon as Travis might have realized that or tried to save his truck from spinning down to the inside, he just kind of collected the 55 of Yazik, and the rest of the field from then on kind of piled into one another.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's extremely difficult when you're that third vehicle in line, because you never know for sure unless you have a real-life spotter telling you exactly what those two trucks in front of you are doing. If they are touching each other, you cannot touch that second truck in line.
iRacing pace car leading the field off of turn number 4, makes a hard left turn down onto pit road. We're going to go back green flag racing once again. Scott Eckridge is your leader. Will he and Michael Krobach get out to that big run that they had before? It doesn't look like they will this time, but still, those two drivers hooked up quite well together. We'll see what Ricky Harden and Jeff Ward can do. Those two drivers seem more than apt to work with one another, so we'll see what happens on the high side.
Yeah, the outside did not get as organized on the initial start here, but they're starting to get their act together through turns 1 and 2, and they're starting to make a charge down the back straightaway here, becoming even with Scott Eckridge up front.
Looks like Scott Eckridge not getting too good of a push there. He and Michael Krobach got separated a good decent amount. Jeff Ward now going to block all the way down to the bottom. He's going to get in front of his teammate there, Scott Eckridge. We're 3 wide here at the front. Look at Ricky Harden in the Fingermobile. That's the 3 truck there, right smack dab in the middle. He's got Safe Ferries, a pretty good push behind him in that scenario. Up on the very top, that 3rd lane, that's Colton Salick in the 99 car. He's got Jonathan Cadell in the number 69 just behind him. Those guys are hooked up together extremely well. Lots of good pushes going on here.
Yeah, everybody's doing well right now, but this is the hold your breath moments that Daytona can produce. We are 3 wide, and you can see how tight those trucks get once they start to move around. The air really buffets these trucks around. In the corners, there's contact on the back straightaway.
Well, that's dang near the entire front draft. Less than 10 trucks coming out of this unscathed.
Yeah, that's pretty much the half of the field that didn't wreck in the last caution.
And if we don't have green-white checkers, guys, we're going to be really close to getting a restart. We might have maybe one lap.
This might end the race. See what's going on here, but iRacing can make the call to just decide to end it.
But in the meantime, we'll take a look at a replay, and hard to tell from that angle. I'd like to start with the blimp if we can roll it back just a bit.
Yeah, so you're going to see Scott Eckrich gets a really good run on the bottom, and he's going to duck out from behind Jeff Ward. He goes up to the middle lane to block this run that Ricky Harden gets, and this would have been a perfect move, but I think Ricky was also getting pushed by the 44 Safe Furious, and that knocked him sideways into the 9 machine there of Jeff Ward, and then Jeff came up the track and collected 2 outside lanes, and then everybody else kind of, a shift one way, equal and opposite reactions. That's how the 72 of Krobach got involved, and you see 5 cars there on the infield, but JR, there's a whole lot of cars wrecking up on the banks.
Yeah, a lot of cars that continue to wreck in this, and I'll tell you, it's difficult when you're behind another truck to see what's going on ahead of you, but clearly when the caution comes out. You can see that on your screen, and a lot of these drivers came flying in there very late, making a lot of contact. So some of them did a great job. You can see them actually getting completely slowed down, but there were others that were not braking as much as what they should have, so created a little bit of an extra mess there at the end.
So if things shake out the way they have been for now, Paul Pepper is your leader, Jonathan Cadell second, Kyle Brooks is third, Tyler Dohar in fourth, and Chris Stouffer is going to round out the top 5. And we're going to take a quick minute-and-a-half break. We'll be right back after this with the conclusion of the race. Welcome back to the Pretty Good Racing League. We're here for the Route 66 Paint and Wallpaper Twin 100s. Currently underneath another caution. You see the lights still on atop the iRacing pace car, so the race will most likely end under the yellow flag condition. Route 66 Paint and Wallpaper specializes in custom house painting and wallpaper in Kingman, Arizona. They're the only contractor in all of Mojave County that removes and installs wallpaper. You can find them on Facebook by searching Route 66 Paint and Paper. And a quick thank you to some of our season-long sponsors, Mahan Speed Laboratories, pushing the boundaries of what's possible in the world of high-speed testing and analysis. And another big thank you to Yaz's Sandwiches and More, serving delicious summer lunches to northern Michigan for the past 5+ years. That's Yaz's Sandwiches and More. If you're up in the northern part of Michigan, time to get in there and get yourself a sandwich for lunch here. Only going to be open a little bit longer here as the summer season continues to push itself into the fall months. We've had a pretty sweltering hot couple of last days here in Michigan, Kenny.
Yeah, we have. It was pushing 90 today, and I'm looking forward to the lack of humidity and lack of heat as well. I'm ready for it. But, one driver who's ready to take a trip to victory lane is going to be Paul Pepper, who's now leading this race. And for any viewers who might be confused as to how he even got to the point. If we could queue up a quick replay to show maybe from his cockpit view when he got through that wreck, you'll basically see the seas parted for him just perfectly in that last wreck, and just everything worked out for him there. But we'll take a look real quick here. There's a look. We can back it up just a little bit. You see there, it just a big mess of trucks in front of him, and then all of a sudden nobody is there, and Paul Pepper makes it through, and he's going to end up being the leader here. There you see the drivers getting sideways, and they just all leave out in front of him, and it's going to lead to a victory for Paul Pepper.
Yeah, shades of Austin Dillon last year in the Coke 0400. He's going to cross the start-finish line right now, and he's going to win this race. So Paul Pepper, the number 29 truck, driver from North Bay, Ontario, Canada, from Paul Pepper Motorsports, has won the Route 66 Paint and Wallpaper Twin 100s the first half anyways. We'll see if he can go back-to-back here, getting a congratulation there from another driver. I believe that was the 86 truck just behind him. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break here while we let iRacing timing and scoring do its thing. When we come back here, we're going to talk to the winner, Mr. Paul Pepper, and then we're going to see how the next race is going to shake itself out.
This is your chance to get behind the wheel. The opportunity to race just like the pros. From the grassroots levels, where we all got our start, to the most popular race cars on the planet. From the fairgrounds of Nashville to the high banks of Daytona, to tracks that will never be forgotten. Realistic driving, intense competition, all from the comfort of your own home. This is the ultimate motorsports simulation. This is iRacing.
Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. We're here for the season opener of the Pretty Good Racing League. Of course, the Route 66 Paint and Wallpaper Twin 100s. They're the only contractor in all of Mojave County that removes and installs wallpaper. Excuse me. Starting to think of Paul Pepper. Of course, our big winner here for the first of our Twin 100s. We got Paul in the booth. Paul, it looked like you kind of pulled a Moses there. The seas parted just in front of you.
Yeah, for sure. There was trucks going high, trucks going low, and everything just cleared out right in front, and we were able to grab the win on that.
Does this kind of affect your game plan going into the race number 2 tonight? Can you be a little bit more aggressive with your moves, or are you still going to try and play it safe? It worked out extremely well for you here in the first race.
Yeah, I'm not really going to be all that safe. I told the guys who tend to go on with the first chance to take it 3 wide in the middle, I'm going to do it. So I'll probably do the same, start from the back in this one. We had a really good truck in practice. We had the fastest truck in practice, and I messed up in qualifying and put us, 35th. So no playing it safe. We're going to try and get to the front again on this next one here.
Is there anything, and you don't need to reveal all your secrets, but anything you got in your back pocket or up your sleeve, kind of tricks of the trade to get yourself from dead last in the field to hopefully the opposite end of the spectrum once again?
Oh, there's a couple things for sure. There's a little bit of shake and bacon, you know what I mean? But yeah, I don't want to reveal it right now so all these guys can hear it. But we got something in the back pocket to come from the back to the front again. Keep an eye on that 29 HumberviewParts.ca Action Utility Trailers Silverado. It'll be coming right to the front.
Oh, well, you've certainly gone ahead and put yourself in the spotlight here for the second race. But, Paul, before I let you go, anyone you need to thank for your run here tonight?
Yeah, like I mentioned, HumberviewParts.ca, they sponsor this truck as well as my real race car, Redline Wraps. They make the truck look as good as they do. Action Utility Parts, SCR, Sean Chenoweth Racing, Andy Camrath Racing, Think Path Racing. I don't think I'm forgetting anybody else right now. Justin Brooks Designs. He turned real life into this game. So all those guys, and look forward to the second one here. And thank you guys, obviously, for putting on the broadcast tonight. You guys did an awesome job.
Hey, no problem, man. I'll go ahead and put you into the general chat. I apologize for not remembering what room you're in, but Paul, thank you so much for your time and congratulations, man.
Awesome. Yeah, if you could put me into the LPM channel, that'd be great, because I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, no problem. I can get you
thanks.
there, brother.
All right, have a good
luck.
one. Yeah.
That was Paul Pepper. We'll go ahead and read through the finishing order here from our first race. We'll have to do it pretty quick because we're going to run out of time. Paul Pepper wins. Jonathan Cadell in the second position. Gael Brooks in third. Tyler Dohar in fourth, with Christopher rounding out the top five. Thomas George is going to come home in the sixth position. Kyle Howell in seventh. Mike Wright there going to come home in eighth, followed by Adam Beef Jersky in ninth there. Woody Mahan comes home in the 10th position. Coming home in the 11th spot, that's going to be Isaiah Dupre, followed by Tyler Delger in 12th, with Chris Lanini in 13th and Django Matthews in 14th. Colton Salick was running in the top five in the last lap there, but that untimely wreck for his sake puts him in the 15th position. Mike Rigney is going to come home in 16th, with Mike Rasmus in 17th. And then Ryan Zimmer in 18th with Cy Ferris in 19th. Ricky Harden rounds out the top 20. Brian Fletcher starts on the pole here for our second of the two races. Mark Herzog starts in second. Nathan Guilford starts third, with Rooster Rodden in fourth, and Brian Greenlee rolling off in the top five position. Jordan Harnish starts sixth, with Zach Olson in seventh and Mark Cohn in eighth. Rounding out the top 10, it's Jacob Willis and Sawyer Nelson. Brian Yazik's going to roll off in the 11th position, followed by Mac Bailey in 12th. Ryan Keeson 13th, and Nick Cody rolls off in 14th, with Michael Astudo in 15th and Calvin Filarski in 16th. Matthew Boniface starts in 17th, followed by Carson Aub in 18th, and Don Runkle Jr., old DRJ, in 19th, followed by Drew White, who rounds out the top 20. Scott Eckridge is going to roll off in the 21st position, followed by Tyler Graff, who starts in 22nd. Michael Krobach, a strong run in the earlier races, forced to have a mid-pack finish. Hopefully he can do better in the second of the two races. Travis McQuistion and Jeff Ward, another two drivers that did extremely well in the first race, are going to start in 24th and the 25th positions, JR.
Yeah, rolling off in 25th, we have Robert Barney. Alongside him, 26th, will be Sean Cross. Starting 27th in this race, Justin Rector. Alongside him in 28th will be Matt Simrick. Starting 29th is Shane Calhoun. 30th place is Creighton Carter. 31st will be Ricky Harden in that 3 truck. 32nd place will be Saif Ferris. Starting in 33rd, we have Ryan Zimmer. 34th will be Mike Rasmus. 35th, Mike Rigney. 36th place is Colton Salick. 37th, Django Matthews. 38th place, Chris Lanini. 39th tonight will be Tyler Dolger. Starting 40th in this race will be Isaiah Dupre. 41st, Woody Mahan having a tough run in that last race. Adam Jersky rolling off in 42nd. Rolling off 43rd will be Mike Wright. Alongside him in 44th is Kyle Hollowell. 45th is Thomas George. 46th place, Chris Stouffer. 47th, Tyler Dohar. Starting 48th is Gael Brooks. 49th place is going to go to Jonathan Cadell. And starting tail on the field, your last race winner in 50th place will be Paul Pepper.
Thanks, JR. Nathan Guilford, of course, starting on the pole. That was my bad there for reading off names incorrectly. iRacing shows it as one thing, and that's what I go off. And of course, as people leave the session or might not go from one session to the next, they're still in the inversion. But SDK, of course, always grabs what iRacing shows the drivers still in the session. So iRacing pace car ready to make the hard left turn down onto pit road. Of course, hands the field over into the hands of Nathan Guilford. Green flag in the air. We're underway here for the second of 2 races in the Route 66 Paint and Wallpaper Twin 100s here at Daytona International Speedway. Brian Greenlee taking a while to get up there to the rear end of Nathan Guilford. Top line, though, already back into the swing of things. You see the number 38 car there, Brian Greenlee, trying to get hooked up to the 25 on the bottom. Look at the 01 car, Rooster Rodden, a strong start for him, but how about this run in the top, JR? You've got the 32 there and the 8 making some hay on the top side.
Yeah, definitely 32 and the 8 have hooked up really well on the top side.
We're wrecking already, guys. Wrecking already. Big wreck down the backstretch, guys. Started around mid-pack, and yeah, a lot of drivers involved here.
That was a big one. It looks like race number 2 starts out the same way that race number 1 ended, with a big wreck there down the backstretch.
And we were talking off camera about how, oh wow, okay, so this started with Creighton Carter. He's that blue and white truck up by the wall. He just checks up big time in the middle of the straightaway, and I don't know if he saw something that spooked him. I think maybe some drivers up ahead of him got together. I think Robert Barney might have gotten in the wall or gotten into another truck, and that checked up Creighton Carter, and everybody else behind him just piled in. Yeah, we were talking off camera about, thinking that maybe the second race is going to be not so tame compared to the beginning of the first race, and so far that is correct, although that was not necessarily a wreck based on aggression. That was just based off of, something weird just happened there, and nobody's going to expect a big-time checkup in the middle of the track like that. You see those 2 trucks, there's a pink one and a red one there that are way slower than everybody else. And Creighton sees it, but nobody else does. That was just kind of odd there. Yeah,
I'm not sure. Maybe, something might have lagged on his screen to kind of spook him, like you were saying, Kenny, but it's hard to put yourself in that particular driver's shoes / car in that situation. But regardless, we're going to have our first caution here come out at the middle of lap number 1. We're going to take a 90-second break and be right back after this.
This is the world's premier online racing simulation. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat from your home computer with the most realistic online motorsports experience you'll find anywhere. Race virtually in the world's biggest events with officially licensed series, cars, and tracks. From the high banks of Daytona to the blistering speeds of Indianapolis, the dirt of Eldora to the world's most legendary road courses. It's all here, and with more than 180,000 people just like you already driving, you'll always have someone to race. Ready to get behind the wheel? Sign up at iRacing.com to get started.
Welcome back here. You're watching the Pretty Good Racing League on the Virtual Group Network. We're here at Daytona International Speedway for the Route 66 Paint and Wallpaper Twin 100s. Route 66 Paint and Wallpaper specializes in custom house painting and wallpaper in Kingman, Arizona. They're the only contractor in all of Mojave County that removes and installs wallpaper. You can find them on Facebook by searching Route 66 Paint and Paper. And of course, as always, a big thank you to our season-long sponsors like Winternode. If you're looking for fast, reliable game servers and web hosting, Winternode has you covered. With lightning-fast performance and expert support, Winternode delivers the power and flexibility you need to keep your online world running smoothly. Host your Minecraft server, spin up a VPS, or launch a website with winternode.com today. and MC Squared Editing Services. MC Squared Editing Services always goes the extra mile to take your document across the finish line. Whether it's a resume, cover letter, grant proposal, article, or content for your website, MC Squared Editing Services will help you stand out. For a free quote for all Pretty Good Racing League fans, you can contact prettygoodracingleague@gmail.com. MC Squared, leading the way in editing services. iRacing pace car still out in command of the field after that halfway through the first lap caution there down the backstretch. Jordan Hardish, currently your leader. He's got the number 8 truck of Mark Cohn to his outside. Rooster Rodden and Nathan Guilford line up in the second row with Brian Greenlee and Ryan Keese in 5th and 6th. Brian Yazik is 7th, followed by Michael Estudo in 8th. Sawyer Nelson and Calvin Filarski rounding out the top 10. And Kenny, you made an interesting point there while we were under caution that this pretty much immediate caution gives all the drivers that either wanted to or needed to start on pit road the opportunity to catch back up to the field without having to worry about going a lap down.
Yeah, so one thing that some drivers will do at these restrictor plate tracks is they'll intentionally start from the pits at the initial green flag to avoid being in the draft. The downside is you'll fall way behind. You'll be about half a lap down by the time you start rolling. So you look for a caution to be able to catch up to the pack. But we didn't get that caution until it was way too late for a couple drivers who decided to run that strategy in the first race. But here in the second race, few drivers did the same strategy, and they got that immediate caution flag. One driver in particular, Zach Olson, actually got kicked out of the server from internet problems, had to come back in, missed the grid, had to start from the pits, but he is now back up into the middle of the pack because he got that quick caution. No harm, no foul.
Green flag back out. We're back underway racing here. Green flag at Daytona. Look there at Jordan Harnish. A strong start for him. He's going to let Mark Cohn step in just behind him. We'll see what the 0, 1, and 25 trucks can do there in the second lane. So far, it looks like even the 25 truck there, Nathan Guilford, is going to hop on down to the bottom lane. Look at Mark Cohn looking for the lead up high.
Yeah, he's trying to go to the outside there. He's kind of by himself at the moment, still slightly has the lead, but he has the 28 and 55 coming to his rescue there to keep pushing him.
Both those trucks going to try to get back down to the bottom. Looks like the 28 of Ryan Kiss can't quite get down there. We'll see how far back Mark Cohn goes. He's going to get picked up by Brian Yazik, and he's shown pretty much all night tonight he's one of the best, if not the best, pushers here in the Pretty Good Racing League. Jordan Harnish back up to the top. Some zigging and some zagging going on, Kenny.
Yeah, for sure. This second heat, or this second race, just has a totally different feel to it from the first one. But remember, all these drivers up front are all drivers who finished towards the back in race number 1. They're all looking for redemption. Some of them might not be used to running up front because of how the first race went. We saw one car get really loose there. That was Don Runkel Jr. But yeah, just a completely different vibe, and I'm looking forward to seeing drivers who finished up front, who are now in the back for this race, try to make their way up through the field, and it's going to take some time.
And JR, it's a completely different ball game when you run in the middle of the pack to the back of the pack pretty much all day long, and then all of a sudden you find yourself up towards the front. Last year, I myself was in this position where I was all of a sudden up at the front of the pack, and I had the opportunity to throw some blocks to make sure I could keep the lead, and I only had to make it another lap and a half, but it's just a completely different ball game, and I found myself facing the other direction pretty soon because it wasn't used to racing up there. You have to make strong, decisive moves in the blink of an eye.
Absolutely. Your vantage point is completely different when you're up at the front, and you have a lot more options that you can do. And like you said, when you are that lead car, you can throw those blocks to try to slow the momentum down in those other lines. But when you don't have a lot of experience up front doing it, sometimes those blocks can go really wrong.
See up towards the front of the pack. Two lines still extremely strong, racing one another. Jordan Harnish is still leading the pack on the bottom side, goes up for a block. That's going to open the door on the bottom for Ryan Keese in the 28 truck. He's now going to go all the way to the front of the pack. We'll see what Mark Cohn can do. Big push here to the 22 truck there of Jordan Harnish.
Yeah, Harnish continuing to be very aggressive in this race. You see him moving from the top down to the bottom, and he'll move back up to the top lane coming off of turn 2. So he is trying to work that momentum and stay in the lane that is moving the best. We see a couple of trucks diving out a little bit on the back straightaway, but they're getting it gathered up.
Yeah, that was the number 38 truck of Brian Greenlee. All of a sudden went down off the racing line. Oh, they're wrecking again. Trucks, excuse me, hard into the outside wall. They're still wrecking. Lots of drivers not able to check up in time. As soon as they come into frame, are basically spinning sideways and missing some body panels already.
On our race 1 winner, Paul Pepper was involved in that a little bit. Got some right side damage on his truck. We'll go back and look at that, but oh, it looked like they were going to wreck for a few laps there until it finally happened.
Yeah, Kenny, walk me through this one.
Yeah, I'm trying to take a look at it here myself and see there's 2 trucks up towards the top. Well, they end up towards the top. See there? Yeah, see there that, I don't know, it's just kind of coming. You see there's the net code. You see the 2 trucks kind of inside each other. I almost wonder if the truck in the middle there, Jordan Harnish, came down and just got a little too close to where they kind of got, sucked together. And then netcode just took care of the rest of it. That's kind of just a theory. But it just looks funny. I mean, Harnish didn't do anything egregious, and the truck on the bottom didn't either. They just kind of got close to each other, and then all of a sudden just got locked together and shot up towards the wall.
Yeah, and JR, that's something we don't see very often, but it's kind of one of those things where if there's netcode going on, all it takes is for 2 cars to get together. Maybe that's due to side drafting like you theorized before, but it kind of just seems like iRacing says, all right, if you're this close, I'll just go ahead and put the 2 of you together, and at that point, both cars pretty much lose all ability to steer.
Yeah, I mean, it's a risk in any race, but especially when you come to Talladega and Daytona here, that net code can pop up in weird places, and you've got to be thinking about it. I know I'm one of the most outspoken drivers about net code. If you give each other room, you don't have to worry about it, but anytime you get close to one another, that can pop up and bite you, and it really seems like it turns its head up at places like Talladega and Daytona.
And Kenny, of course, you're seeing everyone in the field now come down pit road because this is about a quarter of the way through the race. And this is a great opportunity for a lot of trucks just to come down pit road, top up on fuel if you weren't in the wreck, and if you were, get all the damage repaired that you can. Of course, this place being about 180, 190 mile an hour chess match, you need all the aerodynamic help you can get. And with a wrecked race truck, you're pretty much going to have a parachute.
Yeah, pretty much from 28th or so on back, we have drivers in pit lane. I mean, that is near half the field, and we're not even 10 laps into this thing. We are in the window now for fuel as far as being able to make it from here on one more stop. So that's why you're seeing all the other drivers come down. And some drivers did, again, just take a fuel-only stop, but a few did take some tires, and there's a lot of damaged race trucks out there. And here's another thing to think about, guys. If you come down pit lane, you get some damage repair, but you end up having a pretty nice truck afterwards. You got to be careful as far as when you come back out of pit lane, because if you end up having to start behind a train of 10 to 15 trucks that are more damaged than you might end up losing the draft right from the get-go on the restart speed, just because the drivers in front of you aren't fast enough to keep up. So if you pit for damage, you need to kind of make sure you are one of the first damaged trucks to get back out of pit road so you can line up behind the fast trucks.
Yeah, or if you can't keep up, you need to hope that there's a caution before you get lapped. Otherwise, you're going to be in for some serious trouble. It's not a very fun race, Kenny, when you have to pretty much ride around the rest of the race either without help or pretty much going a lap down every 20 or so in the race. It's just not a fun feeling.
Yeah, the one good thing is that these races are relatively short, and also with the amount of cautions in this race, that's going to keep a lot of the drivers in the hunt. But we already have a lot of damaged race trucks, so I expect this draft, once we get going, to possibly only be maybe 25 to 30 trucks instead of the customary 40 to 50 that we had at the beginning of the first race.
So, JR, based on the way the first race ended and the way this second race has started, have you learned anything of what to do if you're behind the wheel of one of these trucks?
I think a lot of these guys are probably going to think that they have learned what to do and what not to do as far as making moves and trying to get to the front. But I also think that's going to make these drivers take more chances than what they did in that first heat. So I think more than likely we're going to see more action coming. Hopefully we get a few laps in before it happens, but we do have a lot of drivers in the front of this pack now that have not been up there all night. So it's a little bit similar to what we just started with at the beginning of this race, but it's a different set of drivers that have not been up here. So there's a lot of unknowns as we get ready to come to the green flag here.
Yeah, and of course, a lot of these drivers are racing with and drafting with people. They haven't done that all race long, and there's a lot of new faces in new places here in the Pretty Good Racing League. So all the while, you're trying to figure out how everybody races on this plates track. It's with new people you've never met before. Guys like Rooster Rod, Michael Astuto, we've never seen them in the Pretty Good Racing League, so we're trying to get to know them just the same way as the drivers out there, staples in the series, mainstays like Brian Yazik, Jeff Ward, Scott Eckridge, Michael Krobach have seen. Back out, Green Flag Racing here, Rooster Rodden, strong start. He's getting a push by one of the best in the business, Brian Yazik there in the 55 truck. We'll see if that Highline can do anything. Usually they'll start to get a really good run going down the backstretch, but that's not how that happens. You see the 28 car there of Keys jump down to the bottom. We'll see what happens in the high line. You got the 98 truck there, Tyler Graff. He was a good pusher in the first race as Brian Yazik now jumps up to the high side. Can he get a push by the 85?
Yeah, and you got to see what Yazik did right there. He was reading the situation perfectly, and he saw that second lane coming, and he moved up before it was too late. He moved up just in time to catch that momentum, and now he's going to be pushed out to the lead.
Brian Yazik in the lead on the high side. We'll see what Rooster Rodden can do. Gets a really good run there on the bottom. A big push from that 2 truck. That's Nick Cody.
And we're still seeing drivers that finished up towards the front in the first race. They are still kind of struggling to get up towards the front. Thomas George has made up quite a few spots. He started 46th. He's up to 14th here in this second race. But Brian Yazik, he's really stood out to me. Even though he didn't get a good finish in that first race, he was a force to be reckoned with. He was a really good pusher, and now he's a leader up on that top line. So he's definitely a player at these plate tracks. Just didn't get the finish that he maybe deserved in the first one.
Yeah, I'll tell you what though, Kenny, for as much as we're seeing the guys that finished well in the first race not do well, or not at least get up towards the front, I am already starting to see a big chunk of the drivers that pretty much dominated that first race now, right in the thick of things in this front pack here. You see the 93, Travis McCuistion, 3rd car, middle lane. Michael Krobach, Scott Eckridge, the 2 cars just behind him. Jeff Ward, the 6th car on the bottom. They're 3 wide here down the backstretch. We might be looking at getting another wreck here pretty soon.
Well, we're catching a lap truck as well here going down into turn 3, and we're 3 wide. This is not going to work. I saw 2 drivers door slam each other. Oh, he's getting off the racing surface. That is a great move. I'm not sure who that truck is, but good on them for getting out of the way. But yeah, and down in turn 1 and 2, I saw Tyler Graff and Michael Astuto last time by door slam each other in the middle of the corner, and I thought they were all going to wreck, but they keep it going so far.
Yeah, that 13 truck, the car that was all the way up near the wall, went down to the apron. That was Chris Stouffer, and the 13 was still 3 wide, about 4 or 5 rows deep here as we come off of turn 2. Now down the back straightaway, a little bit of a hit chip there. That was the 46 truck, almost getting into the outside. Wrecking down the back.
Looks like a lot of them are going to go down to the grass this time. Still takes out quite a few of the leaders, though.
Yeah, that was 4 or 5 trucks there in that front pack. Rooster Rodden, the 98 machine there. I believe Travis McCuistion might have been involved. The 17, the guy on Brooks, the 2 truck, and Nick Cody.
And guys, this is the danger about what happens when you have 3 lanes. If 2 drivers in different lanes kind of move towards each other at the wrong time, which looks to be what happened here, it causes problems. This happened with Tyler Graff. Ended up getting turned around by Matthew Boniface, and they were both kind of Boniface was a little bit low, and Graff was a little bit high, kind of at the same. Well, Boniface was not very low. Mostly Graf was a little high there, and just started the wreck. And all these wrecks have been, most of them have been up towards the front, and that's made the wrecks be quite large.
Well, we're going to take this break in the action to take a quick little break ourselves. We're going to take a break for about a minute and a half, and we'll be right back right after this.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. You're watching the Pretty Good Racing League on the Virtual Group Network. We're here for the Route 66 Paint and Wallpaper Twin 100s from Daytona International Speedway. Austin Belke, J.R. Shepard, Kenny Kibbe up in the booth. And as always, we have Ryan Seneker in the production trailer. Coming here off of another caution on lap number 17 of 40. Approaching the halfway point of the race so far. And J.R., it seems like these drivers are just itching to get going here.
Yeah, these drivers are not wasting any time to try to be aggressive or make passes, or we even saw the entire pack be 3 wide there, not just a couple of rows, but the entire pack was already 3 wide. So the drivers are antsy. They're wanting to get up front. They're seeing this as their last opportunity tonight, being the second of the 2 races, to try to go up there and make something happen, especially if they had a bad first race. They want to try to get as many points as they can in this one. And so far it's led to a lot of action and a lot of contact, so we'll have to see if these guys can get calmed down a little bit to run these final 20 laps or so.
Ryan Yazik currently your leader. He's got to his outside. Strong competitors all the way up and down the field, but so far Brian Yazik has Michael Astute out to his outside there, and then number 85 truck just behind him, Matthew Boniface in number 95, and Sean Cross. One of those drivers, JR, we haven't really talked a whole lot about today, kind of been just waiting in the weeds, I'll call it, for right now.
Yeah, exactly right. Haven't seen much of him at all. Finished 25th in the first race. Obviously caught up in some stuff, but definitely making good progress so far, because he started 27th in this race and he's already up to that second row on the outside. So looking to have a good night here, but he's going to have to keep it clean and get it to the finish.
Some other drivers that ran well in the first race, wrecked out of it though in the later goings, but running here again towards the front pack for now. Travis McQuistion in the number 93 truck. Of course, he finished 28th in the earlier race. Michael Krobach 29th, and Scott Eckridge in 31st. So a lot of the guys that ran well, finished in the back, have made their way back up towards the front for now.
Yeah, and I will say before we go green here, the top 3 in the last race, the best any of those drivers started was 29th. So this is a race where you can come from the back and finish up front if you're smart enough here.
Yeah, for sure. Lots of opportunities as we get going into the later parts of the race. So many opportunities to draft and kind of pass other drivers if you can work the air just right. iRacing pace car goes back down pit road. We're back under the green flag once again. Brian Yazik gets out to a strong start, but JR, a big gap like that to the trucks behind you can often be a bad thing.
Yeah, exactly right, because it allows those trucks behind to get a big run, a big draft on you, and they have to take that momentum somewhere once they get to you, and that's normally right by you. Thankfully for Yazik there, the drivers behind kind of got racing side by side and mixing it up, so that slowed that momentum down. So he's going to be okay on this one, but definitely on future restarts, he's going to have to kind of watch what that driver behind is doing.
Yeah, luckily for him as well, Matthew, the truck behind, checked up just a little bit to give him that push. Watch his huge push there. I like that veteran move there out of that 46 truck. Sean Crossy got a huge push by Travis McQuistion, elected to not go too far with it and get in the back end of the 4 machine. Ryan Zimmer, they're 3 wide for right now, only about 2 or 3 cars deep there. You can see, though, that third, we'll call it row there, has started that third column.
And it's being led by drivers who really stayed up in front the majority of the first race. You got Michael Krobach, Travis McQuistion, and Scott Eckrich. They are the style of drivers that they want to be up front and control this race, and that's exactly what they're planning on doing. Oh, also Thomas George right behind them as well.
Yeah, we haven't talked a whole lot about Thomas George so far today. Season 3 winner. We haven't seen a whole lot of George the last few months here in Pretty Good Racing League competition. Good to have him back once again. Momentum shifts onto the bottom side for right now. And talk about that 4th driver there in line on the bottom. That's the 37 truck of Mac Bailey. We've heard a little bit about him from Jeff Ward. Speaking of Jeff Ward, a little bit side by side, RG Bargy there with the 85 truck.
Yeah, and it's not a great place to have that happening through the trail. We saw some trucks get out of shape, but they were skilled enough to get it gathered back up. We stayed green here, but definitely through the trail is one of the places where you do not want to have contact because it's very, very easy for the truck to take off into the outside lane and just collect a bunch of trucks.
Side by side down the backstretch. Brian Yazik right now in the catbird seat, but look at this push on the high side. That's Travis McQuistion.
Oh, we got a wreck on the inside.
46 and the 19. No caution so far because they're off the racing surface. We'll see if they spin back up into traffic. Indeed they have. Caution flies.
Yeah, I lost him on my screen, but I saw it when it originally happened there. It was just kind of a bad block between the 46 and
the 19.
Oh, it was actually a side-by-side contact. I thought it was more so between the 46 and that green truck, but it wasn't. It was more of a side-by-side thing. What I was going to bring up though is JR. I've noticed. Oh, there's some big-time aftermath there. Oh man, I did not realize that wreck was as large as it was.
Ooh, yeah, they're still wrecking after the fact, too. Lots of drivers having to take evasive action down there in the infield grass, and you think it's hard to control these trucks at 200 mile an hour. It's a lot more difficult at 150 even through the grass.
You know, and what I wanted to bring up, though, is, JR, I've noticed that the causes for a lot of these wrecks and/or contact is that a lot of drivers have seemed to be hesitating in what line they want to pick. They're trying to judge the momentum, and they seem to be kind of half in one lane, half in another, and it's causing a lot of conflict out there. Talk about how important it is to be committed to what line you want to race in at these types of tracks.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to be very decisive. You have to make those decisions quick, and you have to be watching the situations that are happening behind you so you can make those situations quick. If you make them too late, there's nothing that the drivers behind can do to avoid you. So if they have huge runs coming, if you do not get up before they get there and it's last second, they can't just stop or turn left or turn right to avoid you. It will create a wreck. So you have to be on top of what you're doing and make those decisive movements.
Kenny, it looks like we've got the 55 truck of Brian Yazik fresh off of pit road now in the waiting room. We'll go ahead and pull him up in here. Brian Yazik, Austin Belking, the boys up in the VGN booth. You got a copy?
Yes, sir.
Well, buddy, you're in about the best place to be for right now. You've been up leading. What's your vantage point been like?
Well, it's been good to be in front of the Rex instead of behind him for a moment. That kind of happened around us there in the first one, and it is what it is. But I don't know. This is setting up to be real interesting if it goes green from here, because without topping off, you're real tight on fuel. So there's going to be probably a smorgasbord of things going on here. So I don't know. I don't feel comfortable just yet.
Brian, it's Kenny up in the booth. We've seen that you and some of your teammates, that you seem to be focusing on trying to stay up towards the front. Has that been kind of the game plan from the beginning, is to try to control the race?
A little bit. You try to put yourself. You really try to put yourself in the best position that you can, and then you kind of look at the next truck down and kind of go from there. So, being out front of these things, you're statistically, less likely going to hit something. So that's always the big thing with these sorts of races. But you got to finish first finish to finish first sort of deal. So that's really all we're trying to do and get to the end of it here.
Hey, Brian, this is JR up in the booth here. Got a quick question for you. We saw how calm that first heat was, at least initially. This one has been the complete opposite with a lot of action. Has that been kind of surprising to you, or are you kind of expecting a little bit of a ramp up here in the second race?
I mean, if you kind of look back at, the historic Daytona duels, you kind of look at the history of that one. If race 1 is pretty clean, race 2 is a little nutty, or vice versa. So that's kind of what happened here. I think first race, everybody was setting in, kind of getting to know each other and see what was going on, and you kind of knew in the back of your mind that you had the second race, so if things went really sideways, you're all right. But now I think you see people going, all right, this is it. This is the last chance to get up here and talk to you guys and bring home a victory. So here we go, because different car next week, so maybe people might be thinking, well, I'm not so good in that car, so maybe I'll try and get me a good finish here.
For sure. Brian, really appreciate you taking the time to come up here and talk to us. Great answers as always. Best of luck in the race, man.
Hey, not a problem. Thanks, guys.
That was Brian Yazik, number 55 truck for Loud Pedal Motorsports. So far, he's been the dominant truck, one of the best pushers so far, but if he wants to win this race, he's going to need to either break away from the pack or get a big push from someone else so he can win. So far, it's Chris Lanini in the 27 and Michael Krobach in the 72. Kind of a palindrome situation going on there for the numbers in the first row. Brian Yazik is in third. That's the man we just talked to. Travis McQuestion's going to roll off in fourth. Scott Eckridge rounds out the top five. Matthew Boniface in sixth. Ryan Zimmer seventh. Thomas George in eighth, with Gael Brooks and Matt Bailey rounding out the top 10. iRacing pace car should be making the hard left turn down pit road in just about a couple seconds. And guys, we're going to have to get going here with the new driver we've seen out front for today.
Definitely Chris Lanini rolling them off here. We'll have to see how he's able to do with Brian Yazik right behind him as they get the green flag here.
Big push there between the Scott Eckridge machine and the 55 of Yazik. We'll see what Krobach elects to do. There's a hole down to the bottom if he wants it, but his Loud Pedal Motorsports teammates might try and pick him up. So far, he's the only car up on the top side. Oh, he barely cleared himself down to the bottom.
He did a nice job, and that's one of those decisive moves. You got to make a quick move in those situations. He did it where he had enough room, made it happen. That inside line is really stacking up at the moment, but we're starting to see some of those trucks in the back there form up with the teammates that they want to run with, and they're going to make that outside line by the time they come off turn 4.
Look at Thomas George, jumped up to the top side all by himself, gained about 5 or 6 spots. Now he's going to start getting some help by the 37 of Mac Bailey and the 28 machine there of Ryan Keys. More help continues to find itself up towards the front on the high side. That's Jeff Ward in the 9 car. That's the 4th car in line up top. They're now being joined by Brian Greenlee in the number 38 truck.
Yeah, and Thomas George, he knows how to get it done on these tracks like Talladega and Daytona. We've seen it in the PGRL, different seasons where he's been able to come out victorious. He finished 6th in race 1, so he's already made his way to the front of the pack in the first race. Now he's leading this one, trying to bring it home with a win.
Yeah, we've seen Thomas George dominate some of the plate tracks before, and we've seen him win at Talladega. Certainly one of the drivers more apt to these flat-out racing contests between drivers. Mac Bailey doing a little bit of sideways action. Jeff Ward went for the top to the bottom in turns 3 and 4. Chris Lanini still the lead car down on the bottom. We'll see what Thomas George does here in a second. Can he clear the car on the inside? And if he does he decide to hop down there?
Yeah, that's going to be a decision that you're going to have to make based on what is happening around you. Right now, that outside line looks pretty strong, but there are moments where the bottom is able to advance forward, and you have to decide, do I want to go down there and block that inside line or continue with those trucks that help me get the lead?
We'll look at the 86 truck there. Isaiah Dupree going up all the way to the top side. He starts to make that third line. Does anyone else block him and try and harness the energy that his truck can create? It looks like Mac Bailey might do it. It actually checked that. He'll be forced to. Kind of got blocked out of line there from that second group.
Yep, and just like you mentioned, here comes that third line on the outside here. This is where we got into trouble earlier. It's just so easy to make contact, especially through the tri-oval, because these trucks really move around with the air that is dissipated from the trucks ahead.
Thomas George back up to the front. He's cleared himself in front of Chris Lanini down on the bottom. He can jump down there if he wants to, but right now that 28 truck of Keys doing an excellent job of pushing him. He's going to clear himself once again. We'll see if Keys can follow him. Then those two can go wherever they want to on the racetrack. Brian Yasek with another good push here towards Lanini. And Kenny, listen to Brian Yasek talk about how it might be kind of nutty here on strategy because these trucks might be kind of close to fuel on the final lap, and right now you maybe don't want to be that lead driver. Might want to be second or third where you can kind of blip the throttle every now and again. Oh, 4 wide as they come off turn 4.
Well, it looks like fuel's not going to be an issue because we got a big wreck in the tri-oval that'll bring out the caution. And yeah, that was originally going to bring some strategy into play because everybody pitted pretty much right on their fuel number. And Chris Lanini, though, he was the only driver who stayed out. As we take a look here at the replay, the wreck was already started there. The HendrickCars.com truck's been in a couple wrecks tonight. We'll see how it started. Oh, yeah, like you said, Austin, they got into a 4-wide situation, and technically there is enough room for 4 vehicles, but it is tight, and any little move creates disaster. Yeah, you see there, they just got into 4 wide. Maybe weren't all aware that they were 4 wide, and just kind of multiple little bumps into one another just magnified into a few large bumps.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that 51 truck there all the way on the top side, I don't know if maybe some error got into that, but certainly Drew White, maybe some handling problems, kind of what caused that 3 wide into 4 wide. I think some of that was just drivers getting runs at a certain point in time where it's not necessarily the best time to get one, JR.
Oh, I actually, guys, I'm looking at this further. I found out what happened. So Sean Cross actually in the 46 got tight off of turn 4, got up into the outside wall, and that checked up Drew White right behind him. And Drew kind of did what we all do as kind of a reflex, and he kind of dove his truck just low, just a little bit to avoid Cross. And in the process of doing so, he created that 4-wide situation and got into the trucks below him.
So things continue to be a little bit hectic here in the high banks of Daytona. Some trucks now coming down onto pit road. Some of the drivers involved in that caution that just came out there. You saw the 51 on pit road. Some drivers maybe just kind of topping up on fuel, and not a bad opportunity to do that. Or maybe it gets 4 fresh feel goods. It might increase the maneuverability chances of some of these race trucks.
Yeah, Chris Lanini, he had to come down pit road because he was the one driver who was for sure not going to make it. Since he stayed out last time. I think he was probably figuring the rest of the pack was going to follow him down pit road, but they're not going to. So Lanini will go all the way down outside the top 20, and the rest of these drivers who pit on lap 22, they are going to just use the caution laps here to save enough gas to get to the end, which that shouldn't be an issue since we don't have green-white checkers.
Well, guys, I got Woody Mahan here now in the booth. Hey, Woody, Austin, and the boys up in the VGN booth. You got a copy?
I'm here.
Ah, perfect. Well, buddy, you've been doing pretty good so far, kind of mid-pack, just kind of riding it out. Is race kind of going to plan so far?
Absolutely not. It's not going to plan yet for 1 second. I'm trying to hang around, but I keep getting clipped and everything, and then we got real close. We were really close on fuel right there, so we were kind of letting everything decide what was going to happen.
For sure. For the fuel situation, do you think this is going to save you enough to kind of be able to go all out for the rest of this thing?
Oh yeah, we're going full send right here.
Excellent, JR. I'll let you take it away for now.
Yeah, hey Woody, this is JR up in the booth. I know you've been moved back a little bit here. Don't have a whole lot of laps left, so what's the strategy here? You guys expecting another caution and then maybe a short run to the finish, or you guys think we're going to be able to go green and make some moves here?
I would expect that there's going to be another caution, but you got to find a buddy and find his third buddy and a fourth buddy, and I think the only way you're going to the front is in the third row.
Yeah, Woody, is Kenny up in the booth. We've seen that third row work and sometimes not work. How willing are you to try to make the middle work? Because a lot of times when that third line starts, it's been in the middle some of the time, but it's also been up top some of the time. How willing are you, or which one would you prefer? Would you prefer the top or the middle?
My preference is whatever goes to the front. I don't care if we're riding sideways on the wall as long as it's going to the front.
That's a good philosophy to have, Woody. Well, we'll send you back down into the Discord, and good luck on this restart, buddy.
I hope everybody's got a lot of sage burning, because it's going to be pretty tight, I have a feeling.
All right, well, best of luck, Woody. Thank you, as always, for taking the time to talk to us.
See you guys.
That was Woody Mahan driving number 84 Mahan Speed Laboratories truck. Go ahead and send it back down to the Loud Pedal Motorsports Discord chat. Up on the front row, Thomas George is your leader for right now. He's got Ryan Keyes sharing the front row with him, Brian Yazik in third, Mac Bailey in fourth, Scott Eckridge fifth with Ryan Zimmer in sixth, Brian Greenlee in seventh, Tyler Dohar in eighth, Jeff Ward ninth, and Paul Pepper rounds out the top 10. He's the driver that won race number 1 here of the Twin 100s. As always, we'd like to thank Route 66 Paint and Wallpaper. And as always, find them on Facebook just by searching for Route 66 Paint and Paper. Looking to get some work done in your house, and you're anywhere near the Kingman, Arizona, or just Mojave County, go ahead and give them a call. Back to Green Flag Racing here. See what Thomas George can do. Gets up to a pretty good lead here right off the bat. Does he stay up in the high lane or jump down to the bottom? He's going to elect to jump down to the bottom. He looks like he was a fan of what he was getting there in terms of pushes from Keyes. Brian Yazik and Scott Eckridge down there as well.
Yeah, definitely. Always going to throw a big block. He's going to go all the way up to the top side there to get to his outside. Now Thomas George is going to be stuck in the middle.
Yeah, look at them 3 wide there. You're going to see the 78 truck go all the way to the top. That's Tyler Dohar. He won the pole for heat number 1. Now you got Brian Greenlee rocketing his way into the 3rd position. Don't look now, but that 4th truck there on the bottom row, that's number 4 of Ryan Zimmer. He's doing pretty well for himself, and Mac Bailey was in the middle, jumps on down to the bottom. Paul Pepper in the middle once again. Last time he found himself there, he saw the seas part like Moses after a caution, a wreck down the back straightaway, put him into the lead to win the first race of tonight.
Yeah, no, we're seeing some side-to-side door contact there through the tri. Hopefully they keep it gathered up this time by, but still have some 3 wide situations occurring as we go off into turn 1. Big pushes up front, though, from the 70 of Eckridge into Yazik, turned him sideways a little bit.
Yeah, you see the rest of the field checking up. This is going to cause a caution for sure. Everybody, though, for right now, miraculously, somehow holds on to their cars. You saw Brian Yazik get a little bit loose. Scott Eckridge checked out of the throttle. Brian Greenlee jumped out of the gas as well. Checked everybody up a good, decent amount. Right now, we're 3 wide for the lead. You got Yazik on the bottom, George in the middle. He's up top. They're 3 wide for about the first 8 or so rows.
Yeah, amazingly continuing to be 3 wide here, inches apart from each other as this air moves them around as they get those bump drafts moving sideways.
Thomas George gets into it. Brian Yazik in the outside wall with Keyes. They're wrecking behind him. 2 truck in the air.
And that is the big one there, guys. Very few trucks got through unscathed.
Man, they're still wrecking.
Yeah, that is definitely the biggest wreck that we've seen in this race, and we will have enough time for a restart. So, any drivers that can get their trucks moving will have to try to salvage as many spots as they can get. But boy, it looked like they were wrecking from about turn 4 and on. This actually started way up towards the front. That there was kind of almost like a disagreement between Keith and George right from the beginning on that restart. And I don't know if it was them that actually got to. I think it was them that got together to start this whole thing. You see,
Yeah,
Keith was getting pushed there by Dohar. Maybe, well, you see, he's a little bit offset. That might have pushed him low a little bit down into the side of George, and that forced Yazik to kind of get out of shape, and then it was on from there.
Yeah, and of course, when the wreck happens in row number 1 of just about 20 or so, there's not a whole lot of places for other drivers to go. And just after the restart, too, everybody's still pretty well clumped together.
Well, you got a feel for Brian Yazik. He had nothing to do with that accident and had arguably the fastest truck in both races and will not have much of anything to show for it in either race.
Yeah, he's been probably the best driver here tonight. He's just been caught up in events that weren't by his own doing.
Yeah, and he's officially out of this race. He has left the session. So, man, you saw one truck there get airborne even. We haven't seen any blowovers tonight, which is a good thing, but a lot of beautiful trucks getting absolutely destroyed out there.
Yeah, lots of fascias front rear end all over the racetrack. It's going to take a while for the iRacing officials to clean up this one. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in about a minute and a half. Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. We're here for the Route 66 Paint and Wallpaper Twin 100s. Austin Belke, J.R. Shepard, Kenny Kibbe with you in the booth. As always, we've got Ryan Seneca in the production trailer. Route 66 Paint and Wallpaper specializes in custom house painting and wallpaper in Kingman, Arizona. They're the only contractor in all of Mojave County that removes and installs wallpaper. You can find them on Facebook by searching for Route 66 Paint and Paper. As always, I'd like to thank some of our season-long sponsors like Mahan Speed Laboratories. Mahan Speed Laboratories is excited to continue pushing the boundaries of what's possible in the world of high-speed testing and analysis by helping its clients stay ahead of the curve in their respective industries. Not just a business, Mahan Speed Laboratories is a partner in speed and innovation. Lastly, Yaz's Sandwiches and More, located in Indian River, Michigan. Yaz's Sandwiches and More has been serving delicious summer lunches to northern Michigan residents and visitors for the past half a decade. Find them online at facebook.com/Yaz's Indian River. Of course, the summer season coming to a close, so now more than ever, the time to go up there and get yourself something good to eat for lunch.
Guys, we were talking a little bit behind the scenes, and look who has popped up into 6th place. So it looks like it might actually be 7th place. But Paul Pepper, our winner from race 1, you see him in that kind of green and blue truck. He's not unscathed. He's got some damage on that vehicle, but he is up here with a chance to win. And I think he's actually higher up in the field than he was when he took the lead on the last race. So he could be in the catbird seat here.
Okay, certainly could. The only thing he has to do to align himself the way he was in the last race is be in the middle, going down the back stretch before the last caution, and hope to see his part in front of him.
Yeah, I mean, really anybody, legitimately anybody in the top 15 to 20 is still in this race. I mean, we have 33 drivers still on the lead lap. And we're going to have 3 laps to settle this. Again, no green, white, checkered, so this will be the final run. But really, anything can happen.
Well, JR, assuming this race does go the scheduled distance under green flag, if you're coming off turn 4 on the last lap, where do you want to be? You want to be the leader? You want to be the car in second place? Where's your mind at in that situation?
Yeah, I think it depends on who you have around you, but ultimately, more times than not, you want to be that second car that has the draft, has the momentum coming off of turn 2 down the backstretch so you can make that pass.
Green flag out once again. Thomas George jumps down in front of Scott Eckridge. Scott's been more than happy to work with George in previous races here, especially in the restrictor plate tracks. We'll see what those 2 drivers can do for right now. Just behind those 2 is another pairing. You've got Keys in the 28 machine and that 4 machine there. That's Ryan Zimmer. Just behind those 2 drivers, there's a larger gap. Back to 2x2, you've got Paul Pepper there. Guys like Jeff Ward, Mike Rasmus. Things are going to get extremely interesting pretty quick here.
Yeah, we had a two-car breakaway up front, but those drivers have started to break apart a little bit, and you're going to have a big field here that's going to be catching these 4 drivers shortly, and they're going to have a lot of momentum. They're going to have to take that somewhere. But coming to the front stretch here, it looks like the top 2, Thomas George and Scott Eckridge, have been able to hook back up and pull away, so that 2-car tandem actually works in a short amount of laps.
He had 2 to go this time by. The second 2-car tandem has since been swallowed up by the pack. For right now, they are leading the top and bottom rows, respectively. Through the rest of that pack, you've got Paul Pepper on the bottom, Mike Rasmus up top, Jeff Ward behind him, Chris Lanini. So you see these drivers now inching closer and closer to that first 2-car tandem there. Thomas George, Scott Eckridge. Eckridge is going to go high for a block. You see the Ford truck. Ryan Zimmer, jart down to the bottom. Extremely fast move on his part. Woody Mahan looking to go up to the 3rd row, and Jeff Ward into Mike Rasmus, and they're wrecking at the front.
Thomas George up in the catch fence there, guys.
Yeah, that was a massive wreck. Jeff Ward involved in that.
That's the race, guys. That's going to be it.
And we got to celebrate the move that Zimmer just pulled on the field. That was an unbelievable counter to the double block he received from 2 vehicles. We'll take a look at it a little bit after the wreck here, but you see Zimmer gets in the lead. You see Rasmus there in second. He was getting some pushes from Jeff Ward in behind. See if it's maybe a bad push, maybe an accordion push. See Rasmus just a little, he's looking low, and yeah, it's just another offset push. And you see there Ward's being pushed a little bit by the 28, and it just doesn't work, especially when you get offset, and especially in the corners when the trucks are light. They go up into the outside wall, and this one was a violent wreck.
Yeah, just you can't push the pusher in those situations, and it's so hard to tell when the driver in front of you is hooked up with the driver in front of them. You see Thomas George kind of riding the wall. Tony Hawk would be proud of that move right there. Still wrecking hundreds of yards after the initial contact, and Thomas George continues to go for a spin. Heartbreak there for George. It looked like he had it all under control.
Yeah, I was watching that top line as we come to the start-finish line here, but I was watching that top line, and with Rasmus leading it, he had damage, so he wasn't really creating any runs. But once a driver got up ahead of him, which I think was Zima, he ended up bringing that group to the front, and he's going to come across the line and win this race. You see, there's the unbelievable move he made. We'll have to take a look at that a couple times, but Zima just came across the line to win.
That was impressive. Well, we're going to let iRacing timing and scoring do its thing. When we come back, we'll talk to your big winner as well as Kenny's pick, and then go through the entire finishing order as well just before that. We'll be right back in about a minute and a half.
This is the world's premier online racing simulation. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat from your home computer with the most realistic online motorsports experience you'll find anywhere. Race virtually in the world's biggest events with officially licensed series, cars, and tracks. From the high banks of Daytona to the blistering speeds of Indianapolis, the dirt of Eldora to the world's most legendary road courses. It's all here, and with more than 180,000 people just like you already driving, you'll always have someone to race. Ready to get behind the wheel? Sign up at iRacing.com to get started.
Welcome back to the Route 66 Paint and Paper Wallpaper Twin 100s from Daytona International Speedway. Ryan Zima with an amazing move on the last green flag lap, barely avoids a double block. As they wreck behind him, he finishes in the first position. Ryan Keyes in second position, followed by Paul Pepper in third. Chris Lanini in fourth, and Tyler Graff a strong run. A bad finish in race one puts him out with a top five there in race number two. Gael Brooks, strong night for him. He'll finish in the sixth position. Drew White, another new face, comes home in seventh, followed by Tyler Dulger in eighth, and Desire Dupre in ninth, with Jonathan Cadell coming home in the 10th position. And it looks like we can't talk to Zima. We can't find him in the Discord, so we're just going to go ahead unless we got him. Is that the slowest Ryan?
Yep, he's in there. He was the fastest Ryan tonight, but he's here.
All right, well, JR, it looks like you can take it away.
Yeah, indeed. I have Ryan Zima here. Ryan, man, newcomer into this series, but definitely showed your speed here tonight. I know the first race was a little bit rough, was only able to get up to 18th, but talk us through that amazing move that you made on the backstretch there in order to win this second race.
Yeah, I was just, trying to keep it clean through the field and, work your way up through. Might have missed a lot of those big wrecks, that's for sure, but once we got the green, I knew the top would always get in those big runs, so I started laying off of them because those top three were really getting away. I see the pack come behind me, so I kind of timed my run and got a draft on the guy in front and went to the outside so that I can get a bump, and then I knew those guys were going to go up and block, so I kind of made my move at the same time, went down, and kind of set sail from there. I saw they wrecked behind, I was like, oh, there we go.
Yeah, exactly. We were talking up in the booth when the best time to try to make your move might be, because we know at PGRL we do not have green white checkers, so definitely on a track like Talladega or Daytona, sometimes waiting to the last lap is not the best way to do it. So definitely a fantastic time to make that move. But I have to ask you, so PGRL is going through a lot of changes for Season 6 here. We're now running the trucks and then alternating each week to run the Gen 4 Cup car. Is that something that you're looking forward to? Are you going to be able to race the entire season?
Oh yeah, that's my plan, is to race all of them. But I love the trucks. I love the Gen 4s too. My favorite cars to actually drive. So, I was looking for a league to run, and I guess someone invited me over here, and it's a pretty cool league. So I'm usually good at short tracks, and when I make decision making over the big super speedways, so it should be fun.
Awesome. Well, I got to ask you, next week we're at Atlanta in that Gen 4. How are your thoughts going into that place? A very abrasive racetrack. Tire wear is going to come into play there for sure.
Oh yeah. I think track position is pretty key over there, so I'm gonna try to stay in the top 10 and save tires, have a nice race pace all the way through the race, and hopefully there's not too many yellows, save tires, and come through the field.
Sounds like a plan, man. Hey, before I let you go, who do you want to thank for tonight's run for that win?
Thank all my sponsors, Huntsville Ford, Ace Hardware, Rock Hill Ford, Franklin Sides and Graphics, and everyone who sponsors me in real life. They're a big part of my racing career and helping me get through here. So it's always fun to come through and run other leagues just to be able to have more racing experience, see time, and it's a great group of guys in this league that I joined.
Well, fantastic, man. Hey, we appreciate you coming up and talking with us. Congratulations on that run tonight and win in race 2.
All right, thank you.
All right, guys, that was the winner of race 2, Ryan Zima. And with that, I believe Kenny is now caught up with a guest that we're going to pull up into the booth here.
Yeah, I've decided to catch up with Gaming Gael Brooks. Man, I had to talk to you because you grabbed a 3rd place and a 6th place tonight. You have to be happy with those results. 2nd best average finish out of everybody here.
Yeah, it was it was stressful, and I won't lie, I'm kicking myself a little bit in this one. I think I made the wrong move at one point, but yeah, no, to come through mostly unscathed both races, and yeah, almost top 5s in both. That wasn't an easy thing to do with these guys here, and yeah, it was exciting. That 2nd race, I was doing a lot of lawn mowing, but luckily the truck survived.
Yeah, I was about to say, it looked like your pit crew had to probably get a bunch of grass out of the grill a couple times. You went through the grass, but you remained mostly unscathed. But you talk about kind of a wrong move you made. What was it specifically that you're kicking yourself about?
So it was the restart after the fuel mileage. We were right at the edge of the fuel window, and it's like, okay, if we say we can make it to the end if we go green, but we should probably think about just trying to get to the front. And I decided to stay bottom with my teammate Travis in the 93 truck, and then 10 trucks just blew by us, and we really never had a chance to get back to them afterwards, unfortunately. I think hindsight, try to get to the front, hopefully obviously not get caught up in an incident at the very front, but then be able to kind of lead that middle lane, 2nd lane, and then hope for the yellows behind us to get us in the fuel mileage. I think that would have been the better, more aggressive move for a potential win, but we decided to play it safe and play the fuel game in case we win green. So kind of hindsight, I think that's what I would have rather done, but again, it was just kind of one of those things you want to say fuel, and plus I like the bottom line because I had to use it a few times tonight to kind of make that sharp left and try to avoid the wreck on the track.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. That's when you're on the bottom, you have options. You can go to the apron or up the track, and when you're up top, you pretty much just have the wall, and that's about it. So that's good thinking on your part. But moving forward, we're gonna switch back and forth between the trucks and the Gen 4 car, Gen 4 Cup car. What are you looking forward to, one over the other?
Honestly, no. I really, really like what Michael and Scott have done, and the rest of admins with the series, with kind of finding the nice mix of tracks for the cars. These trucks race super well at the plate races. That's always fun. But I mean, to go with the Gen 4s at the old Atlanta with just all the crazy power and everything, it's gonna be so much fun. I've always enjoyed that car. Even when I'm running mid-pack or worse, I still have a smile on my face with those things, just because it's just so much fun to drive them. So I'm really excited for that one. Plus, I think if I remember, I say I'll have to be a little biased because I'm pretty sure I'm sponsoring the Atlanta races anyway, so they better be amazing.
Right. Well, we're a big fan of Atlanta here, so we're looking forward to it for sure. But before I let you go, who would you like to thank for both runs tonight?
Well, I mean, gotta start with you guys. Obviously, it's a lot of fun being able to do these on the broadcasts, and I've been able to be on the other side of the camera, so it's a lot of fun. I know all the hard work you guys put in, and you got put on a great product, so definitely appreciate all of your guys' hard work. Admins as well, got to stay on their good side, so thank you again to all the admins for putting this on and making adjustments to kind of see what we can do to make everybody happy. I know the next gen kind of didn't finish off as strong as we had hoped over there. I love this league, though. It's so much fun. And then, yeah, I got to thank all the teammates over with Peltier McQuistion Simulations. I had a bunch of teammates tonight. So Don Runkle Jr., I had Tyler Dolger, I had Travis McQuistion, Calvin Filarski, Chris Matthews. It was like a hangout tonight, so it was a lot of fun hanging out with those guys. And I got to thank my brother, favorite son, and my dad as well for peeking in during the broadcast and stuff. So that's all I got, though. But yeah, I had fun, guys. Thank you so much for having me, though, tonight.
Yeah, thanks for joining us up in the booth, and congratulations on the great runs tonight.
Thanks, guys.
That was Gael Brooks with 2 great runs tonight, and wow, guys, a lot to unpack after this week.
Yeah, good to have Gaming Gael Brooks up with us in the booth. Kenny, a fantastic pick for that. And, of course, pretty hard to not pick him. 2nd best average finish of the night. The first one was Paul Pepper, but, of course, we already spoke to him. So trying to get to different people up in here, it's always nice to get to talk to Gael whenever we get the opportunity. And, of course, this race had it all. Both the races, really, they had a little bit of pit strategy in the first race, especially JR. Even some kind of crept into the second one. And, of course, you can never come out of a race at Daytona or Talladega without a handful of big wrecks, and especially the big one, potentially big ones as well.
Definitely a lot of action. We kind of expected this going into Season 6 of PGRL with the mix-up of going to the trucks and the Gen 4, especially the trucks here at Daytona. We know how they draft, how the action can be, and that's what it produced here tonight. But a lot of contact, a lot of guys having finishes that are not accustomed to having bad finishes. So I think that as we get into next week and week 3, we're going to Atlanta next week and then Darlington after that. Those are tracks that are going to require a lot of driver input. The driver will determine how you are able to finish there more so than luck. So I think after we get through those 2 races, we'll start to have a clearer picture of what this season will actually hold.
Yeah, and this, I'm with you there, JR. Like, this Daytona race to start the season is definitely kind of a wild card. Obviously you'll get drivers that are going to be up front every single week, including at Daytona. But it's just such a mixed bag, and it's a lot about luck and being at the right place at the right time and things like that. I'm really looking forward to first the next race, which is going to be in a different vehicle at Atlanta, but then the next week after that, when we switch back to the trucks, will be kind of the first quote-unquote real race in these trucks to find out who has the true pace, and that somebody that can, who can actually go for a championship in both of these series. So I'm really looking forward to the next couple weeks.
Of course, you guys alluded to it already. We'll be back live next week at 8:50 p.m. Eastern Time, Tuesday, September 12th, from Atlanta Motor Speedway. And, of course, the old Atlanta, the one that's slick and slidey. Going to be awesome to see those old Gen 4 Cup cars on that track surface. And, of course, this Friday, September 8th, the Bootleg Racing League's Super Late Model Series takes on North Wilkesboro Speedway. As always, that stream goes live at 8:10 p.m. Eastern Time. This has been a pretty good production of the Virtual Grip Network. On behalf of myself, Austin Belke, my booth mates Jared Shepard and Kenny Kibbe, as well as our director Ryan Seneker, thank you so much for watching and have a good night.